NXT starts off with a women's triple threat match for the North American Women's Championship between Thea Hale, Izzy Dame, and Lola Vice. This was a good match. I really enjoyed it. All the women look really good in this match. Towards the end of the match, you end up getting Kalani Jordan interferes in the match, costs Lola Vice the match. She ends up using a ladder to smash her hand against the ladder, so that ended up playing a factor. This allowed Izzy Dame to end up pinning Thea Hale, which I expected because they were really high on Lola Vice. Lola Vice rarely eats pins, so I expected Thea Hale to take the pin here and Izzy Dames retain. I like what they're doing. I like what they're doing with Kalani Jordan. I like the whole Kalani Jordan Lola Vice feud that could potentially pay off really well. This is giving me similar vibes to what they did with Jada Parker and Lola Vice. I just hope that we get an actual conclusion, because with that feud, we never really got a conclusion. They both just got one victory over each other, and that's really it. So I hope we get more of a conclusion to this feud. But I like what they're doing, Kalani Jordan. I really do. I like her. I like her heel run so far. This has definitely been a step in the right direction with her, because her turning heel was a great decision. It was a really great decision. I like what they've been doing with her as a heel. Very interested to see what they do with the feud leading up to continue the feud as well. What they do can potentially lead afterwards, depending on who wins the feud. I like Izzy Dame continuing being as champion, because I do think it's the correct choice. I think she's the best suited for the North American Championship right now, if I'm being honest. So I like Izzy Dame continuing her reign. Don't know what you do with Thea Hale after this point. I really don't. The only thing I can see is a potential heel turn, maybe, or a character change, because I do think Thea Hale does need a new gimmick. Or you could keep her same gimmick, but give her more of an edge, in my opinion. I do. Now, they are kind of doing that to a degree where they're giving her more of an edge. So I hope they develop that, because I do think her character needs more development, because she has been playing the same character since she's been in NXT. And I do think she needs more of a character development at this point in her career. So we'll see what they do with Thea Hale. But I do like that Izzy Dame is still the North American Women's Champion. And I'm assuming her next opponent will eventually be Tatum Paxley, because they're still teasing that as well. So I'm assuming that's going to be what's next for Izzy Dame. Afterwards, we end up getting Tony D'Angelo. He ends up coming out, ends up giving his reasonings for why he's been the way he's been for the past few weeks. He ends up basically saying that ever since he lost his family, he had to find himself again, and that he finally figured out who he was. Then he ends up mentioning Dark State took everything away from him, and now he's going to take everything away from Dark State. So he says his first mission is to go after Dark State. Okay, I'm fine with that. Then he ends up saying that his second mission he's not going to say until after he's done with Dark State, which I kind of don't like. Now, his reasoning he gave, I guess, was fine. I still don't understand what was the purpose of him attacking everyone if his goal was Dark State, because some of the people he attacked had nothing to do with Dark State. It made sense to interfere in the Dion Lennox and Joe Hendry match. That made sense. But everything else was a bit confusing. Him staring down Oba, like, what was the point of that? Now, to be fair, they called Oba to the main roster, so maybe they had more plans. But even still, if the whole plan was to him to go out to Dark State first, there was no reason to stare down Oba. Like, I just don't understand. And then some of the other people he attacked didn't have nothing to do with Dark State. So that a bit confusing, but he ends up basically saying that he don't want people to know his next move. So we'll see how this plays out. I don't mind it. I think this gimmick has more potential than his other gimmick, mainly on the main roster. Now, I don't even know if he's even going to get called up to the main roster. It could be a Wes Lee situation. I hope that's not the case, but it could be. So we'll see how this eventually unfolds. I do think a character like Tony D'Angelo is a bit necessary due to the depleted roster in the NXT men's division. So I do think he is needed. I hope this character actually works. Right now, I'm not really interested in the character, especially if he's going to be feuding with Dark State of all people, but who knows, it may be good, but I'm not that interested if I'm being honest, but we'll see how this eventually unfolds. But I will say Tony D'Angelo is needed in the men's NXT division, whether he's going for the North American Championship or the NXT Championship. So either way, I'm fine. Plus, I think he could probably do somewhat of an interesting feud with Joe Hendry if that is the case. So I can see this working out, but we'll have to see how it unfolds. Right now, I'm very mixed, if I'm being honest. We get a women's tag team match for the TNA Knockout Championships between Elegance Brand versus Zaruka. Throughout this match, they're basically teasing Zarya heel turn. She's getting fed up with Soruka. During her entrance, you end up getting Zarya push Soruka. And throughout the match, you end up getting Zarya constantly not tagging in Soruka. Towards the end of the match, though, we end up getting a moment where I think Soruka goes for a Soul Snatcher, and then Zarya accidentally ended up taking the Soul Snatcher. I can't fully remember how the exact sequence went, but I know Zarya had one of the Elegance members on her shoulders. Soul goes for her finisher, but the person reversed it. This allows Soul to accidentally hit the Soul Snatch on Zarya, preventing them from becoming the TNA Knockout Tag Team Champions. So this is definitely going to cause more dissension because later in the show, we end up getting JC Jane cutting a promo calling out Soul Ruka because Soul Ruka was the one that eliminated JC Jane from the Royal Rumble. Calls her out. Zarya comes out instead. She wants a shot at the NXT Women's Championship. JC Jane basically shrugs her off, basically ends up saying that she's not worthy of the NXT Women's Championship, mainly because she hasn't proven herself, and ends up saying that she's basically a sidekick to JC Jane, unto Soul Ruka, that she wastes every opportunity she gets while Soul capitalize on them, and that people love Soul Ruka but just tolerate Zarya, which was a great line. Then you get Kendall Gray. She comes out, wants her opportunity. Then you end up getting Soul Ruka. She comes out. They're all arguing on who gets an opportunity. Then we eventually ends up getting Rob Stone. He's the intern general manager. He ends up making it a tag team match between Zaruka and Ren QCC to decide who's going to be the number one contender for JC Jane's championship match in 3 weeks. And he says whoever gets the pinfall is the one who becomes the number one contender. I'm going to be honest. Logically speaking, from like a real life perspective, it's very stupid. This stipulation is dumb. But from a TV perspective, it's actually entertaining. So I don't mind this as much because it's going to progress a story. This is clearly going to progress the Zarya and Soul Ruka turn, because it's really going to be Soul Ruka winning this match. Soul Ruka's winning. Now, logically speaking, it's stupid because why would you have your tag teams be at each other's throats? You literally have your own partner basically feuding with each other as a tag team because they got to get the pinfall. But from a TV perspective, I like it. So Soul Ruka is definitely winning next week because that's the only way you progress this Zarya stuff. Because Soul Ruka wins, Zarya gets jealous, and one or two things are going to happen. Either she costs Soul Ruka the match, or Soul Ruka wins, and then Zarya eventually faces Soul Ruka for the NXT Championship at Stand and Deliver. Me personally, I actually prefer Soul Ruka winning the NXT Championship. Now, I'm not as high on Soul Ruka as other people are, but I prefer her winning if the end goal is for Zarya to dethrone her, because I think that is the best choice. Because if they're going to have this feud, Soul Ruka needs to lose. So Zarya needs to win this feud. Soul Ruka gains nothing from this feud, especially if she's going to be on the main roster soon, because I don't see Soul Ruka being in NXT for more than 6 more months. So if Soul Ruka is going to be there for like another year, then maybe. But I don't see Soul Ruka being there that much longer. So it's like, Zarya needs this way more than Soul Ruka, in my personal opinion. So I actually prefer if Soul Ruka wins, because if Soul Ruka loses this and then Zarya costs her the match, that's only telling me that Soul Ruka is going to win the feud, which I don't think she should, because Soul Ruka doesn't need to win this feud, if I'm being honest. Especially if she's going to get called up on the main roster after Stand and Deliver. So if Soul Ruka is not going to be there for the long term, Zarya needs to win this feud. Now, also, too, I also need Soul Ruka to probably win that match and win in 3 weeks, mainly because I just don't want Kendall Gray to win it. I like Kendall Gray. I think she should go at the North American Championship first, and then we could talk NXT Championship. But that's just me personally. I don't hate the idea of her winning the NXT Championship. I don't. I just prefer she go after the North American Championship first. There's just other people I personally see more ready and fitting for that NXT Championship before I go to Kendall Gray from a character and storytelling standpoint. In ring wise, sure, but character and storytelling wise, I think there's other people who are more fitting for that role, in my opinion. That's one of the reasons why JC Jane's run has been so great, is due to her character work. Even though her matches have been great, but her character work, in my opinion, has been the best thing. So we'll see how this plays out. I am interested to see how they play this story up. I'm assuming they're going to do a similar thing to what they did this week, where they're just going to have Zarya not tag in Soul because she wants to get the pinfall, potentially having Zarya break the pin when Soul goes after it. So I could potentially see that as well. But I do think Zaruka will win next week, but Soul Ruka will get the pinfall. We finally get the main event, the NXT Championship match, ladder match. This match was good. This was a good match. I enjoyed it. The MVPs of this match was really Sean Legacy, in my opinion. Sean Legacy and Keanu Carver was the MVPs of the match. I really did enjoy this match. There's not too many crazy spots that I could really go over. There was one sick spot where Sean Legacy ended up doing like a 450 off the ring apron onto a ladder onto Jackson Drake, which I thought was dope. We end up getting a moment where they end up stacking all the ladders on the Keanu Carver to make sure he doesn't get back up. But eventually, of course, he gets back up and just completely destroys everybody. But towards the end of the match, you end up getting Ricky Saints He's on the ladder by himself after taking out somebody. I forgot who he took out, but I think he took out Keanu Carver, puts him through a ladder that was connected through the announce table onto the ring apron. He takes him out, and then it was a moment where, for whatever reason, Ricky Saints ended up doing his signature pose, but he took like 30 seconds to do his pose, which was very weird. This allowed Joe Hendry to get on the ladder and then take out Ricky Saints to become the new NXT champion. I like the sequence because there was a moment where they was both hanging onto the ladder and they was both rocking back and forth. I thought it was cool. My only problem is I didn't like Ricky Saints taking a long time to go after the NXT championship. It's like it's a fucking ladder match for the NXT championship. Why are you have the perfect opportunity and you just standing there doing nothing? I felt like that was a bit ridiculous. I don't mind Joe Hendry winning the NXT championship. I did think Joe Hendry and Ricky Saints had the best odds because they are the most ready for the NXT championship, and I do think they make the most sense. And I do think you need more of an established person for the NXT championship and then let those guys get more seasoning, get more experience, and then eventually become NXT champion down the road. Plus, this only helps them develop better because then eventually when they beat Joe Hendry or something, then that only makes them get more over with the crowd. So I'm cool with Joe Hendry winning. My main problem with Joe Hendry has been his gimmick with them overusing the he appears thing. I like the gimmick. I do. I just think it's overused a bit. It's kind of like Jey Uso with the yeet shit. I don't mind the yeeting stuff. I don't. I just don't think they should be doing it in matches. Same thing here. Sometimes with Joe Hendry, they use his gimmick very forced, like it's too forced at times. Tonight's show was a good example. This was a good example of him being serious. I like when Joe Hendry's serious. I'm cool with him being goofy, but there are times where they are too goofy and it's too much, too consistent. Like, there's no reason why we should have ever had a Joe Hendry and Charlie Dempsey match. Like, when they did that, that was ridiculous. That was just so forced and so unnecessary. Like, I'm cool with them doing it every now and then, but when they do it every goddamn show, sometimes 2 times a show, it's like, we're doing too much. But if they could have them be a bit more serious at times, I don't mind this at all. And I think it makes sense, especially if you're going to have someone like a Ricky Saints or a Jackson or even a Keanu Carver dethrone him. I think it makes perfect sense for Joe Hendry to be the NXT champion. Plus, he is probably the most over in the men's division, so it makes perfect sense for him to be NXT champion. So I'm actually interested to see where this goes. I like what I saw from the men. I think people are over exaggerating on how bad the men's division is in NXT. I think it's decent. I don't think it's great. I think it's decent though. We'll see how this plays out. Overall show, I thought it was a solid show overall. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid show overall. You guys let me know your overall thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. But yeah, that's it.